Don't sit near her. She's just a waitress. The words sliced through the air like cold steel. The laughter that followed wasn't loud, but it was sharp enough to cut. Clinking glasses, polished smiles, the clatter of silverware, it was all background noise to the silence pressing against my chest. I stood awkwardly near the patio entrance, tray in hand, fingers trembling just enough that I had to steady them before another champagne flute tipped over. My cousin Haley had spoken loud enough for the entire backyard to hear. She smirked, not even trying to hide it. Her designer dress shimmered in the afternoon sun like she was auditioning for a role she already believed was hers, the golden girl. My uncle chuckled. Next time, dress her in black so guests don't get confused. More laughter. My father said nothing. As always, just gave me that familiar look, disappointment glazed over with polite discomfort, like I was someone else's problem. I wasn't even invited to the reunion. I was working it. Yeah, that's the part nobody talks about. How you show up to your own family reunion because your catering gig sent you there. I turned, swallowing the shame down with a bitter smile. Just another job. Just another hour. Just another reminder. Excuse me, can I take this glass? I asked softly to the elderly woman at the table nearest me, trying to focus on service. Focus on moving. She nodded gently, giving me a sympathetic smile. That tiny kindness almost undid me. As I turned, I caught a glimpse of my little brother, the only one who ever really looked at me like I wasn't a stain on the family name. He was older now, taller, dressed in something expensive he probably borrowed from Dad. He didn't say anything. Just stared.
Torn.
I didn't blame him. The reunion was loud, filled with forced affection and real judgment. Lush garden, expensive table settings, guests in pearls and pressed suits. And me, in my black apron and sensible shoes. Then brakes screeched outside the gate. Heads turned. A sleek black car, luxury by any standard, pulled up to the stone driveway. Glossy, polished, foreign. One of those cars that doesn't just arrive, it announces. The door opened. Silence swept the lawn like a hush before a storm. A man stepped out.
Tall.
Sharp. Tailored suit that looked hand-stitched to his frame. His presence wasn't just commanding, it was undeniable. His eyes scanned the crowd, and his steps were purposeful. My aunt whispered something that sounded like, "Who is that?" But her voice was suddenly small. He walked past the hedge. Right toward the crowd. Right toward me. And then he smiled. "I've been looking everywhere for you," he said. I froze. So did everyone else. He stopped a foot away from me. People stared, wide-eyed, uncertain. And then he did something no one expected. He opened his arms and pulled me into a hug. Not polite, not casual. Like he knew me. Like he missed me.
Gasps.
A champagne flute slipped from someone's fingers and shattered on the stone tiles. My father stood, blinking. My cousin's smile faded faster than a setting sun. My uncle's mouth opened, then closed, trying to form a question but failing miserably. "You still like cinnamon rolls?" he whispered in my ear, warm, nostalgic. I blinked hard, choking down the sting in my throat. "You remember that?" He pulled back and nodded, his eyes soft but proud. "Every Sunday." I couldn't speak. My lips parted, but the words, all the things I wanted to say for years, caught in my throat. He turned to the stunned crowd. "Sorry to interrupt your little reunion," he said coolly. "But she and I have a breakfast date we're very late for." And just like that, he took my hand. I didn't resist. I couldn't. Not as we walked through the stunned crowd, not as he opened the car door for me, not as the engine purred, and we pulled away from the garden party that used to feel like a life sentence. As we drove, I finally found my voice. "Why now?" I whispered. He smiled without looking away from the road. "Because it took me this long to deserve you." The silence in the car wasn't awkward. It was thick with history. As we cruised along the winding road out of the estate, the trees lining the way blurred past the window, but my thoughts were sharper than ever. I kept glancing sideways at him. This man, this billionaire who just pulled me out of one of the most humiliating scenes of my life, like it was scripted. He still hadn't told me his name. You said breakfast? I asked, my voice thin. He chuckled.
Yeah.
You never missed Sunday breakfast when we were kids. French toast with too much cinnamon, hot chocolate, that weird fruit salad you insisted on making. My breath caught.
Wait.
My eyes snapped to his face. Ryan. He smiled. And it was him. Older. Different. But those eyes, still soft on the edges, still too kind for this world. Ryan Langston. The neighbor boy from the foster house. My only real friend back when the world felt like it wanted nothing to do with us. You remember, he said quietly. I thought you got adopted and forgot all about us. He shook his head slowly, one hand gripping the wheel.
No.
I never forgot. I just made a promise to myself that I wouldn't come back until I could change everything. I turned to the window, eyes stinging. Well, you've succeeded. He didn't say anything for a while. Just let the road hum between us, soft and constant. Finally, we pulled into a quiet part of the city. Old brick buildings, morning sunlight casting golden rays through narrow alleys. He parked beside a cozy little cafe with ivy curling along the windows and a blue door that looked like something from a storybook. You brought me here? I asked, half smiling. This place still exists. He got out and rounded to my side, opening the door like we were in a romance movie. You used to say if you ever got rich, you'd buy this cafe and live upstairs. I stared at him. Don't tell me you. He nodded. I bought it last year. My legs nearly gave out. Inside, the smell hit me first. Cinnamon.
Coffee.
A whisper of vanilla. The waitress didn't even blink as we sat at the corner table. Maybe he came here often. Maybe the world was already used to seeing him like this. Calm, quiet, generous. He ordered without needing a menu. 2 cinnamon rolls, extra glaze. And 2 mugs of hot chocolate. With whipped cream. He looked at me. Still your order? My lip trembled. You remembered everything. I had nothing else to remember, he said, his voice quieter now. You were the only good thing about that place. Silence again. But not heavy this time. Healing. I didn't know who you'd become, I whispered. I was scared to ask. I looked you up once, years ago, but couldn't find you. That was intentional, he said. I kept a low profile for a long time, until I couldn't anymore. I wanted to find you last year, but the private investigator said you'd moved too often. Changed numbers. New jobs. I nodded. I kept running. I know.
He leaned in.
That's why I came today. I found out your family hired the catering company for that reunion. I asked someone to make sure you'd be the one assigned to it. I blinked. So that wasn't a coincidence? He gave a small smile. There's no such thing when you've spent years looking. My throat closed up. The waitress brought our cinnamon rolls, steaming and sweet. The scent was overwhelming. The taste even more so. I hadn't felt this scene in years. You never told me what you do now, I said after a while, pushing the empty plate aside. I invest, he said casually. I build things.
Help people.
I don't talk about it too much because I've seen what money does to people. I nodded slowly. And you, he said, you still work 3 jobs? I looked down. 2 now. I quit the cleaning one last month. Just this catering and a night shift at the diner. He reached into his pocket and slid something across the table.
A key.
And a note. What's this? Something you once told me you deserved, he said. A place that was yours. A fresh start. And a job offer. I shook my head, overwhelmed. Ryan, I can't take this. It's not charity, he interrupted gently. It's gratitude. You gave me love when no one else did. When I had nothing. You made a scared, abandoned kid feel like he had a home. He paused, swallowing. Let me return that. Tears welled in my eyes. Not because of the gift, but because for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like just a waitress anymore. I felt like a human being. The next morning, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Unknown numbers. Blocked calls. My inbox filled faster than I could delete. But I didn't answer any of them, because I was still sitting cross-legged on the floor of my new apartment, staring at the keys Ryan had given me, the untouched job contract folded on the coffee table like a secret waiting to be believed. It wasn't some penthouse in the sky. It was something better. A warm, sunlit studio on the top floor of the very cafe he bought. Ivy-covered windows, exposed brick, shelves already lined with books, and a little note taped to the fridge. You belong here. Don't ever forget that.
R.
For someone who'd never had a space to call mine, not truly, this was more than a room. It was a declaration that I wasn't invisible anymore. But the phone wouldn't stop. And eventually, curiosity won. I answered one. It was Haley, my cousin. Her voice was sugary.
Shaken.
Hey, hi. So, what was that yesterday? I didn't respond. She pushed on awkwardly. Was that guy really a billionaire? Like the Ryan Langston? I stared out the window, voice calm. Yes. There was silence on the line.
A beat.
Then, are you two, like, dating? I could practically hear her eyes narrowing through the speaker, calculating. No, I said simply. We're old friends. Right, of course, she rushed. It's just, everyone was a little surprised. I mean, we didn't know you were connected like that. I almost laughed, like she was trying to pretend the last 10 years hadn't happened. Like she hadn't called me a pathetic broom girl when I spilled juice on her boots at Grandma's birthday. Like she hadn't just yesterday told her kids, that's what happens when you don't get a degree. You end up refilling your family's wine glasses. Haley, I said quietly, what do you want? Nothing, she replied quickly. I just thought maybe we could grab lunch sometime. Catch up? Like family. I smiled bitterly. It was beginning. The same people who had turned their backs on me were suddenly remembering my name. The same ones who laughed when I stood in catering uniforms were now scrambling to realign their social orbit. And yet, there was no satisfaction in it.
Not yet.
Because the truth was I didn't want revenge. I wanted peace. I wanted to exist without earning back space I never should have had to beg for. That night, I walked into the cafe below, wearing something simple but new. Ryan was behind the counter, rolled up sleeves, hands dusted with flour, laughing with the staff like he wasn't worth more than half the city block. He looked up and smiled when he saw me. You came. I live here now, I teased softly. Still. He poured me a mug of hot chocolate and slid it across the counter like we were still 16. I got an idea, he said suddenly. Something big. I raised an eyebrow. Yeah. He nodded. You know how you told me once that people like us never get seen unless we do something outrageous? I chuckled. Yeah. You said you'd fake your death just to trend for a day. He laughed. I've matured a little since then. But I want to build something, a program, a foundation. For people like us. The ones who got left behind. I blinked. He was serious. And I want you to run it. I nearly dropped the mug. What? You've lived it. You know the cracks. I trust you. I'll give you the resources, the staff, the full freedom to shape it. You'll be the face of it. And no one will be able to look away anymore. For a moment, I just stared at him. My hands, once used to scrubbing dishes and pouring drinks for people who never remember my name, were now being offered the chance to change lives. To be seen, not just for myself, but for others like me. For the first time, I saw what redemption could look like. Not in revenge, but in restoration. And still, the calls kept coming. That weekend, my father's number showed up. I didn't answer. Not yet. Not until I was ready. Not until I had something to say that couldn't be laughed off, erased, or dismissed. The invitation came wrapped in polished gold trim. A formal envelope, hand-delivered by courier, with embossed lettering that read, Langston Legacy Gala, honoring community impact and social change. I hadn't been invited as a guest. I was listed as the keynote speaker. And that's when it hit them. That this wasn't just a fluke. Or a temporary streak of luck. Or a one-time moment when I was lifted from waitress girl to the one the billionaire hugged. This was something real. Something lasting. Something they couldn't take back with whispers or smirks. That weekend, As I prepared to step onto the stage at the Langston Foundation Gala, my family arrived too, every single one of them. Not because they were proud, but because they were curious. Because Ryan was hosting it. And because they couldn't believe I was the one people were whispering about now. The venue was a glittering museum-turned-ballroom, lined with velvet drapes and lit by golden chandeliers. A red carpet swept through the entrance, and press photographers crowded both sides, clicking away as names passed beneath the lights. I wore the dress Ryan picked with me. Not flashy, not revealing. Just strong. A rich navy blue that framed my shoulders and made me stand tall. My hair was done simply. My face was calm. But inside, a storm. As I entered the ballroom, I spotted them, all of them, seated at a long table near the front. My father, Haley, my uncle and aunt, my brother. Their expressions twisted with disbelief as they saw me. Not because I was there, but because I belonged there. And then, the moment, a volunteer coordinator walked over to my family's table. "Excuse me," she said gently. "You're in the reserve section for Foundation executives and honored partners. I'll have to ask you to move." Haley scoffed. "We're family." The woman blinked. They all turned to me. I didn't say a word. The woman followed their gaze. Recognition flickered across her face. Then clarity. "Oh," she said softly. "I'm sorry. These seats are for her guests. She personally assigned them. You're welcome to sit further back." Silence. My uncle's jaw twitched. Haley's eyes narrowed. My father didn't speak. He just stood up slowly, each movement stiff with disbelief, and walked past me without a word. The others followed, clutching their pride like it was something breakable. Ryan appeared at my side just as the MC took the stage. "Nervous?" he asked gently. "No," I whispered. "Just awake." He gave a nod, then lightly placed a hand on my back as my name was called. The applause was polite, curious, cautious. I stepped up to the podium and stared at the crowd, not for effect, but because I needed a second. Not for them, for me. And then I spoke. Most of my life, I've been told where I could and couldn't sit. At dinner tables, at weddings, even at my own family reunion. A few murmurs. But here's what they never tell you, that you have the power to move the chair. To walk away from tables where you're only tolerated and build your own where you are truly welcomed. The murmurs deepened. Some nods. Some uncomfortable glances. I breathed in. I was once a girl who wiped plates while listening to people laugh about how I'd never be anything more. And then someone with a memory and a heart reminded me that dignity doesn't come from wealth. It comes from recognizing others who've been forgotten. From lifting, not stepping over. The ones who serve in silence. More nods. A stillness in the room now. Cameras flashing. Phones recording. "My name is Amelia Hayes," I continued. "And I'm not ashamed of where I came from. I used to be a waitress. I still make cinnamon rolls on Sundays. And today, I get to lead a program that will make sure no girl like me ever feels small again." I looked down toward the second row. My father looked away. Haley's eyes were glassy. And my brother?
He stood and clapped.
He didn't say a word. He just kept clapping. Others joined in. Then more. Until the whole room was on its feet. I didn't cry. I smiled. Because this was what I'd been waiting for. Not applause. But clarity. Not revenge. But recognition. 3 days later, I got a call. From him. My father. I almost didn't answer. My thumb hovered over the red icon. Heart pounding. But something in me whispered, "You need to know what he'll say when he thinks you're finally equal." So I answered. "Amelia." Just my name. No anger. No condescension. Just a single word, heavy with years unsaid. "I saw the video," he said after a pause. "You spoke well." "Thank you," I replied evenly. Another long silence. Then, "I didn't know." "Didn't know what?" I asked, not out of challenge but curiosity. What exactly didn't he know? That I was capable? That I had a voice? "That it would be you," he said. "The one who made it." I didn't flinch. You mean the one you made sit at the edge of every room?
He sighed.
It wasn't defiant, just tired. I was hard on you. Maybe because I thought you wouldn't survive otherwise. Or maybe because I didn't know how to love someone who didn't turn out the way I planned. I leaned against the window of the cafe apartment. I never needed your plan. I needed your presence. I know that now, he whispered. And it landed.
Soft.
But not without cost. I don't hate you, I said, surprising myself. Then why does it feel like you're punishing us? He asked, voice cracking. Like you built all this just to show us what we missed. I smiled gently. I didn't build it to show you. I built it so the next girl never needs to explain herself to anyone again. He didn't respond, and he didn't have to, because that was the truth. And truths don't need validation to remain true. 2 weeks later, I walked into another event, not a gala, not a charity ball, just a family dinner, a simple backyard gathering. And this time, I wasn't serving food. I was invited. I brought cinnamon rolls. Everyone paused when they saw me walk in, a pause soaked in discomfort, curiosity, maybe a little regret. But I didn't come for their guilt. I came for me. Haley approached me first, biting her lip. You look amazing. Thanks, I said, handing her a plate of rolls. Don't worry, they're not poisoned. She laughed awkwardly. I deserved that. I shrugged. We all did what we knew. Now we do better. And just like that, the air softened. My brother hugged me, whispered, I'm proud of you, into my ear. My aunt asked about the foundation. Even my uncle said, You've got your mother's fire. She would have loved to see this. But it was my father who took the longest to move. He waited until everyone was eating, then came and sat beside me. Not across, beside. And after a moment, he lifted his fork, cut a piece of cinnamon roll, and said, This tastes like the ones your mother used to make. I learned from her. He nodded. Then maybe you should host the next reunion. I turned to him, eyes steady. Maybe I will. He didn't argue, didn't flinch, just quietly nodded, as if he'd known, deep down, that this table belonged to me now. And later that night, as I looked around the backyard that once held nothing but stares and whispers, I felt something I hadn't felt in years.
Peace.
Not because they had changed, but because I had. Because sometimes the greatest revenge isn't loud. It's not cold. It's becoming someone they have no choice but to respect. And when the time came, I didn't rub it in. I just smiled and passed the cinnamon rolls.